How you doing, guys? Welcome back. It's LSP. It's currently the 5th of November 2022. So I'm going to be doing some analysis on Bitcoin, Binance, the usual. Obviously, I've been quiet because of what's been going on at Rematic Finance, but many people have, kind of reached out and asked if I can do some analysis. We've had some movement recently on the market. So I'll do a quick sort of overview. When I find a little bit more time this coming week, I'll try to jump on and do a more sort of in-depth analysis, and talk a little bit about what's going on globally, sort of inflation, Powell's ramblings, as we will call them, some things that are going on sort of, on a global scale in terms of different economies and stuff. But for now, we'll just kind of give a general overview, of what we're seeing. So I'm going to start on the weekly chart of Bitcoin. And you can see that Bitcoin's running a little bit here. Now, I want to quickly show you the difference between Bitcoin and Binance. Now, wow, that's a funky chart. That's wow. There's a lot going on that chart. It's been a while since I've stared at these charts. I do apologize. What do we got here? Are there any moments you can see? I think this was probably for one of the. It was one of the Patreon videos I did. Sorry. Yeah, this is better. A little bit more simple. Wow, it's put a smile on my face. It's been a while since I smiled. Anyway, sorry. This pop here on Binance is way more pronounced, than what we're seeing on Bitcoin. This is very muted, but I want to be really clear and emphasize something that's so important. If Bitcoin tanks just out of nowhere, the market will go with it, and it's got nothing to do with Bitcoin itself. Okay, that's not what it will be. It will just be the fact that the sentiment in the market is still weak, and there's some sort of pretty huge event that's happened that's created that kind of downward pressure. So you can see that some altcoins, and I do apologize, there's fireworks going on, but some altcoins are running on their own. Binance is obviously running a little bit, sort of on its own. So it's very easy to make the mistake, right, that we're seeing this kind of decoupling from Bitcoin, and Bitcoin's kind of on its own page now doing its own thing. That really isn't the case at all. And just be careful and just be mindful of that, because if something happens that's pretty dramatic on Bitcoin, the rest of the market's going to follow suit in terms of the cryptocurrency market. So where we stand right now, if we just make a reference to, this area down here, okay, where there is liquidity below these lows, obviously, and then we have, this area of liquidity here, which price has tapped into once. So it is looking likely, that we're going to get some continued movement to the upside, probably around about sort of 22.7 to around about sort of 24.3-ish within this liquidity pool. So if we do start to drive towards that, there's no real reason, actually, just kind of looking at the structure of price. The only other place that would cause an issue is all of this right here. So it is possible that we get above this high, and this next run to the upside around about sort of 25k. But right now, this is what we have to deal with. I'm not really seeing any sort of downside pressure. Let me go over to the daily for a second. Yeah, you can see, we had this sharp drop, takes out this low, kind of grinding sideways for quite a while. This is that first kind of step up just here, and it's looking like we're going to get that push into, this high and deeper into this liquidity pool. But this area over here, and we'll kind of do this as well, just to kind of make it a little bit more obvious. So this consolidation over here, that's the next area that price will probably, stop at if it does, start to run a little bit. So I am expecting a little bit more upside on Bitcoin. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's just going to be, the bottom. I absolutely do not believe that this is the bottom at the moment. I just think that it's a little bit of a relief, in terms of what's going on globally. But then more importantly, to be mindful that the way Bitcoin's moving up is very slow and sluggish, yeah. But when it drops, it just tanks. So be really mindful of that. That when we get downside on Bitcoin, it just tanks. Yeah, we can see this all the time: grinding, tank, grinding, tank. It starts to get a little bit aggressive here, but then look, it took all that time to get up to here, and then 1 to 2 4-hour candles pretty much wiped out over half of this entire move, and then it continues to go to the downside, and then this consolidation. So any downside pressure on Bitcoin, is going to be met with fear and panic. Yeah, whereas any upside movement or momentum is going to be met with caution. Yeah, that's the best way to say it. So let's go over to Binance and take a look at the weekly chart, and you can see Really nice move on Binance. This is an impulse move, decent. Regardless of regardless of whatever the reason is for this pump, it is an impulse. Yeah, and you can see on the daily chart here, that this is a really nice grind to the upside. A little bit of a pause just before this high here, and then we get that secondary pop. On the daily chart, this area of consolidation here, just before the impulse to the downside, is where price is likely going to be reaching for around about sort of 375 to 410. Really, really nice sort of sweet spot. And again, expecting some more upside, but because Binance is running a little bit on its own, it is possible that we get a little bit of stability first before it pops into this liquidity pool up here. So just bear that in mind as well. 4 hour, not really showing much else other than what we've seen on the daily already. So, we can see obviously that move just there, reset price, picks up the liquidity below here, traps a few traders short, I'm sure. And then obviously sideways, impulse, right? So we're getting some impulsive movements to the upside. And I just want to be clear, this is devoid of what's happening with, sort of Bitcoin in the general market, in terms of cryptocurrency. Binance is a little bit on its own page at the moment, so it's looking good for that continuation to the upside. And I would imagine as well, a little bit of an acceleration into this liquidity pool. But so far, what I'm seeing is some, continued upside momentum. But for me, I'm meeting this upside momentum with a little bit of caution. So if I was to just, for example, if I was holding Binance, for example, 376 to around about sort of 410 wouldn't be a bad spot for me personally to kind of take some off, and then kind of wait for another opportunity. Now, in terms of long, sort of term holding, if you're holding Binance already, I'm currently not holding Binance at the moment, but if you're holding Binance, excuse me, for years and years and years, then obviously all of these types of areas, where price currently is, from this low that was created here all the way up to now, there's still so much more range to go. But again, be careful because there's so much going on in the world at the moment. The Fed's not going to pivot on inflation. Inflation is absolutely still a problem globally. There are many, many countries that have been in a recession for a long time. We're just kind of waiting for the numbers to catch up and for people to actually start telling the truth, that recession is real and it's an issue, and that, inflation is real and it's an issue. They keep sidetracking it, but we know what's really happening. So again, be careful. Price can tank at any moment. So with all of that said, guys, I hope everyone's having a fantastic day or evening wherever you are in the world, and I look forward to speaking to you very, very soon. All the best and take care.